Sotadeve, Gauravani Prachadane, Vishesha Nivadi Pasatade Shatadane, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Brave Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 10, Chapter 1, Verse 4. Nivrittatasya upagiyamana, Nivrittatasya upagiyamana, Bhavoshadachotra manovirama, Bhavoshadachotra manovirama, Ka uttama shloka gunanuvada, Ka uttama shloka gunanuvada, Kuman virajeta vina pasutna, Kuman virajeta vina pasutna, Nivrittatasya upagiyamana, Nivrittatasya upagiyamana, Bhavoshadachotra manovirama, Bhavottama shloka gunanuvada, Man virajeta vina pasutna, Nivrittatasya upagiyamana, Nivrittatasya upagiyamana, Bhavoshadachotra manovirama, Bhavoshadachotra manovirama, Uttama shloka gunanuvada, Uttama shloka gunanuvada, Virajeta vina pasutna, Man virajeta vina pasutna. Nivritta, released from, Tasai, lust, upagiyamana, which is described or sung, Bhavoshada, which is the right medicine for the material disease, Srotra, process of oral reception, Mana, the subject matter of thought for the mind, Abhirama, pleasing vibrations, Uttama Sloka, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Guna Anuvada, from describing such activities, Kuman, a person, Virajeta, can keep himself aloof, except Pasukna, either a butcher or one who is killing his own personal existence. Declaration and glorification of the Supreme Personality of God is performed in the Parampara system that is conveyed from spiritual master to disciple. Such glorification is relished by those no longer interested in the false temporary glorification of this cosmic manifestation. Descriptions of the Lord are the right medicine for the conditioned soul undergoing repeated birth and death. Therefore, who will cease hearing and glorification of the Lord except a butcher or one who is killing his own self? Therefore, in India, it is practiced among the general population to hear about Krishna either from Bhagavatam or Srimad Bhagavatam in order to gain relief from the disease of repeated birth and death. Although India is now fallen, when there is a message that someone will speak about Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, thousands of people still gather to hear. This verse indicates, however, that such recitation of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam must be done by persons completely free from material desires. Everyone within this material world, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant, is full of material desire and full of sense enjoyment. Everyone is busy in sense gratification. But when thus engaged, one cannot fully understand the value of Krishna Katha, either in the form of Bhagavad Gita or in Srimad Bhagavatam. The glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, liberated persons, this hearing will certainly free us from the bondage of material activities. But hearing Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by a professional reciter cannot help us achieve liberation. The Katha is very simple. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that Krishna is the Supreme Personality personality of Godhead. As he himself explains, Mutta Paratarananya Inchadastajanjaya. Oh Lord, there's no truth superior to you. Simply by understanding this fact that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can become a liberated person. But, especially in this age, because people are interested in hearing Bhagavad Gita from scrupulous persons who depart from a simple presentation of Bhagavad Gita and distort it for their personal satisfaction, they fail to derive the real benefit. There be scholars, politicians, philosophers, and scientists who speak on Bhagavad Gita in their own polluted way, and people in general hear from them, be uninterested in hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of God from the devotee. The devotee is one who has no other motive for reciting Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam than to serve the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is therefore advised us to hear the glories of the Lord from a realized person. Unless one is personally a realized soul in the science of Krishna consciousness, a neophyte should not approach him to hear about the Lord. For this is strictly forbidden by Srila Srimad Goswami, who quotes from the Bhanu Purana, Vaishnava Mukutam, Kutam, Harikatamatam, Shravanam Nayam Kartavyam, Sarvotishtam, Yikam. One should avoid hearing from a person not situated in Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is Nivritta Krishna. That is, he has no material purpose, for his only purpose is to preach Krishna consciousness. So-called scholars, philosophers, and politicians exploit the importance of Bhagavad Gita by distorting the meaning for their own purposes. Therefore, this verse warns that Krishna Katha should be recited by a person who is Nivritta Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami epitomizes the proper reciter for Srimad Bhagavatam, for Sri Maharaj who purposefully left his kingdom and family prior to meeting death, epitomizes the person fit to hear it. A qualified reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam gives the right medicine for the Christian souls. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore trying to train qualified preachers to recite Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita throughout the entire world, so that people in general in all parts of the world may take advantage of this movement and thus be relieved of the threefold miseries of material existence. The instructions of Bhagavad Gita and the descriptions of Srimad Bhagavatam are so pleasing that almost anyone suffering from the threefold miseries of material existence will desire to hear the glories of the Lord from these books and thus benefit on the path of liberation. Two classes of men, however, will never be interested in hearing the message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam: those who are determined to commit suicide and those determined to kill cows and other animals for the satisfaction of their own tongues. Although such persons may make a show of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam at a Bhagavad Saptaha, this is but another creation of the Karmanis who do not derive any benefit from such a performance. The word Pasudna is important in this connection. Pasudna means butcher. Persons following performing ritualistic ceremonies for elevation to higher planetary systems must offer sacrifices like the animals. Lord Buddha therefore rejected the authority of the Vedas because his mission was to stop animal sacrifices, which are recommended in Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Nindasi Yaga Vidya Ahava Shruti Jata Sadoya Hridaya Darshita Pasudatam Keshavajrita Buddha Sarira Jaya Hare. Even though animal sacrifices are sanctioned, in Vedic ceremonies, men who kill animals for such ceremonies are considered butchers. Butchers cannot be interested in Krishna consciousness, for they are already materially allured. Their only interest lies in developing comforts for the temporary body. Mogaishvaya Prasaktanam Kaya Papartachita Sam Vyavasaya Kabuti Samadha. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Manusya Janamapaya Radha Krishna Navdachiya Janiya Suniya Vishakanya. Anyone who is not Krishna conscious, who therefore does not engage in the service of the Lord, is also Ashubhina, for he is slowly drinking poison. Such a person cannot be interested in Krishna Katha because he still has a desire for material sense gratification. He is not perfect to Krishna. As it is said, Trivargikas te purusha mukha harimeta saha. Those who are in Trivarga, that is in Dharma, Artha, and Kama, are religious for the sake of achieving a material position, or wish to gain better facilities for sense gratification. Such persons are killing themselves by willingly keeping themselves in the cycle of birth and death. They cannot be interested in Krishna consciousness. For Krishna Katha talks about Krishna consciousness. There must be a speaker and a hearer, both of whom can be interested in Krishna consciousness, and they are no longer interested in material topics. One can actually see how this attitude automatically develops in persons who are Krishna conscious. Although the devotees of the Krishna consciousness movement are quite young men, they no longer read materialistic newspapers, magazines, and so on, for they are no longer interested in such topics. They completely give up the bodily understanding of life. For topics concerning Uttama Sloka, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual master speaks and the disciple hears with attention. And as both of them are free from material desires, they cannot be interested in topics of Krishna consciousness. The spiritual master himself do not need to understand anything more than Krishna, because simply by understanding Krishna, talking about Krishna, one becomes a perfectly liberated person. The Lord sits within everyone's heart. By the grace of the Lord, the devotee receives instructions directly from the Lord himself, who says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya Chaham Prati Sandavisto Matasmatir Gyan Mapavanam Shah Vedaishta Savaraham Eva Vedyo Vedanta Krit Veda Chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart. From me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Krishna consciousness is so exalted that one who is perfectly situated in Krishna consciousness, under the direction of the spiritual master, is fully satisfied by reading Krishna Katha, as found in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and similar Vedic literatures. Since merely talking about Krishna is so pleasing, we can't simply imagine how pleasing it is to render service to Krishna. When discourses on Krishna Katha take place between the liberated spiritual master and his disciple, others also sometimes take advantage of hearing these topics and also benefit. These topics are the medicine to stop the repetition of birth and death. The cycle of repeated birth and death, by which one takes on different bodies again and again, is called bhava, or bhava. If anyone willingly or unwillingly hears Krishna Katha, his bhava or roga, the disease of birth and death will certainly stop. Therefore, Krishna Katha is called Aushadha, a remedy to stop the repetition of birth and death. Karmis are persons attached to material sense enjoyment. Generally cannot give up their material desires, but Krishna Katha is such a potent medicine that if one is induced to hear Krishna Kirtan, he will certainly be free from this disease. A practical example is Dhruva Maharaj, who at the end of his tapasya was fully satisfied. When the Lord wanted to give Dhruva benediction, Dhruva refused it. Swami Katartosmi Varamayache. My dear Lord, he said, I am fully satisfied. I do not ask for any benediction for material sense gratification. We actually see that even young boys and girls in the Krishna consciousness movement have given up their long practice of bad habits like illicit sex, meeting, intoxication, and gambling, because Krishna consciousness is so potent that it gives them full satisfaction. They are no longer interested in material sense gratification. Translation: glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is performed in the Parampara system that is conveyed from spiritual master to disciple. This glorification is relished by those no longer interested in the false, temporary glorification of this cosmic manifestation. Descriptions of the Lord are the right medicine for the conditioned soul undergoing repeated birth and death. Therefore, who will cease hearing such glorification of the Lord except the Lord Shora, one who is killing his own self? This is a very famous verse describing the glories of hearing about the Lord or speaking about the Lord. So here, the topics of the Lord are said to be the medicine or the remedy for bhava, material existence. Of course, we know that simply stopping birth and death is not the real goal of the devotee, because liberation or sayuja is actually unfavorable for the devotee, and he rejects it. But it is a secondary aspect. However, it is often mentioned along with bhakti because many people in the material world are tempted or lured by the fact that through a process they can be freed from material misery. So therefore, it attracts them. So we see for instance, in the Nectar Devotion, Rupa Goswami gives many quotations for the different processes of bhakti. And some of the glorification is material. You get nice material results, or you get liberation. So many Puranas will glorify the different processes of bhakti, like offering respects and worshipping the deity, etc. And they say you get free from material existence, or you can get material benefits, etc. So yes, those things can come. Of course, they're not the ultimate for the devotee, but they are mentioned because to encourage people who are attracted to material endeavors and want to enjoy in the material world, and those who are interested in liberation. So as the Bhagavatam second canto says, that whether you have all desires or no desires, or you just want bhakti, you should worship the Supreme Lord somehow or other. So in that sense, such glorifications are given. So that's how we can take this word bhava, which is the remedy for material existence, because some people are suffering and we want to get rid of this suffering. What does it do? It is very attractive, or it gives pleasure to the ear and the mind. That is Shotra Mano Abhirama. In other words, not only do we get free from material existence, but we get joy. So the liberation spoken of here, or freedom from material birth and death, etc., is not simply to be peaceful and have no thoughts of anything. There is some pleasure in the mind and in the ear from thinking about the Supreme Lord, hearing about the form of the Lord, the qualities of the Lord, the pastimes of the Lord. So therefore, yes, we get free from material existence, but it is not a state of simply a blank state of sayuja, with no form and qualities of the Lord. The very basis of this discussion is that Parikshit wants to hear about the wonderful activities of Krishna. So, therefore, superior to getting free from material existence is one gets pleasure from hearing and thinking about the Supreme Lord and His wonderful Leela, Krishna's Leela. So therefore, it is said, Uttama Sloka Guna Anuvada. It is the repetition of, or the recitation of the qualities of the Lord. So yes, by hearing about the Lord, or speaking about the Lord, we can get rid of material existence. More than that, we develop pleasure from contact with the Supreme Lord. This recitation is done by people who are free of Krishna, or it says Tarsaya, people who are free from thirst for material existence. So Prabhupada, a lot of his commentary is based on this. We should not hear from Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam from materialistic people who recite as a profession only, or from people in universities who are simply doing it because they want a doctorate or something, or other types of people or whatever. So the idea is it has to be from a devotee. Now literally again, simply devoid of material desires could be a jnani or a yogi. But that's not the intention here, to hear from yogis or jnanis, because then we'll end up in Brahman. So this is not an absolute statement that one should be free from material desires, but it is the effect of practicing bhakti and hearing and chanting, etc., in a pure way. So in other words, one should hear from devotees who are practicing pure bhakti, of which Nirvritta Trishna is one aspect of it. Of course, we can take it in the gross sense. He doesn't commit sinful activities. He doesn't enjoy sense gratification like that. Okay? But on a higher level, of course, then we have that his bhakti is free of mixture. He practices pure bhakti, uttama bhakti. Anabhilashita shunya. So simply to be free of desire is not enough. One has to practice bhakti, which is free from other desires. That's the position. Jnanis may also recite Bhagavatam, but those are not persons qualified for reciting. Yes, maybe you can get free from bhava this way, so get rid of material existence, but you cannot develop that attraction for the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Nirvritta Trishna indicates devotees of the Lord. So Prabhupada here calls them liberated devotees. So if we take the literal meaning of that, liberated person, of course, a liberated person doesn't mean a jnani. So then Prabhupada also makes it clear, it means a devotee of the Lord. But then one could say, well, that means a devotee who is free of all material desires completely, which means he has to be in upper levels of bhava or prema. So only those devotees should recite Bhagavatam. But then Prabhupada also says, no, we're training people up so they can recite Bhagavatam. And he's obviously not saying they're all on the level of prema. So therefore, the liberated person cannot mean that, literally liberated from all material existence, etc. What he does say is that through the process of sincere bhakti, yes, automatically we're liberated from the material world. At least it puts us on that path where we surpass the material world. So therefore, that liberated devotee is a person who is practicing bhakti in a very pure way, that is, uttama bhakti. So as we know, pure bhakti is uttama bhakti, and it comes in 3 stages: sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. So, in terms of liberation and prema, the prema bhakti is the one who has only bhakti, etc., and is completely free from the material world. He cannot fall into the material world. Even the bhava bhakti can fall into the material world, so technically he's not liberated. And he has some vigna, some obstacle. So therefore, it's not bhava bhakti, it's not prema bhakti. They're different, they're differentiated because the bhava is not as intense in prema, and there is some mixture, which is a disturbance. So then only the prema bhakti is. But then we also know that the prema bhakti generally is not the preacher. The main preachers are those who are madhyamadikaris, those who distinguish between the demon and the devotee, the neutral person, etc. And they're able to respect the devotees in different ways. The neophyte, the madhyama, and the uttama, they can give proper respect in different ways. So therefore, the preachers, those who are reciting the Bhagavatam, will generally come from the category of the madhyamadikari, who literally is not liberated on the level of prema. But he is liberated in the sense that he is performing pure bhakti. And he's on the path to get that prema. And if we don't do that pure bhakti, then yes, we can get liberated from material existence, but we don't get prema. So, therefore, the Nirvritatarsha here refers to devotees, generally the Madhyamadicaris who are practicing pure bhakti. So, they are qualified to carry out the preaching effort on behalf of the Lord. So, of course, one can argue, well, the Madhyamadicaris still got impurity, so he's not so powerful. Well, that is true. And the Prem Bhakta is the most powerful. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Chaitanya Charitamrita, others says, he is the Prem Bhakta. By his mercy, he can elevate a person to Prema who has no background at all in any previous life. He can put him in the level of Prema. And a person on the Bhava level can raise a person up to Bhava who has some previous practice of Bhakti. Of course, we have examples like Narada Muni, who's also a Shaktamitra avatar, and he gives mercy in a person in 3 months gets Bhava or Prema or whatever like that. But this is rare, kind of rare. And it's also called Kripa. So therefore we have persons who are less than that. We can say the Madhyamadicaris who are practicing Bhakti. So they can also raise people up according to their level, and they can guide them to follow the regular practices by setting a good example for others and giving the knowledge of the scriptures, Bhagavatam, etc. Knowledge we process, knowledge of Bhakti, knowledge of Krishna according to the scriptures. Okay? So therefore, there is some Shakti in the Madhyamadica. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says in Madhurya Kadambini that this Madhyamadica is given the freedom to distribute Shakti, Bhakti Shakti, to the people of the world. He can decide where he wants to give Bhakti, which means that he has some Bhakti. The Lord is giving the Madhyamadica some Bhakti. It's not the same Bhakti as the Prem Bhakta or the Bhava Bhakta, but it's some Bhakti. There's something there. And this person who gives out Bhakti. So we see that in Chaitanya Charitamrita it says that by the mercy of Guru Krishna, one gets the seed of Bhakti in the favorable field of Shraddha. So the Madhyamadica will take that mercy of Krishna and Bhakti belonging to Krishna and give it to jivas in the material world. Do whatever extent he can. So it's not the complete Bhakti of Prema, but it is some Bhakti. So this is the general way in which Bhakti spreads in the material world through these devotees. They are also Nirvritta Trishna in the sense that they are practicing pure Bhakti. And eventually they'll reach that highest level. So therefore the process of hearing and chanting, etc. is very important. And of course that first process is to hear, but we have to hear from those who are reciting. So we should hear the Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita from a person who is sincerely practicing Uttama Bhakti. This is generally the Madhyamadica. And through that, then we begin to develop. And we can surpass material existence, we can develop that pleasure in the mind and in the ear for hearing, etc. Increase and increase and increase. And eventually we come to the level of Prema. So actually this is a question. Who would be indifferent or who would reject this remedy of hearing about the Lord, which is so pleasurable, talking about the qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord? Who would reject it? Only Pashupna, only the butcher, which means the materialist who is so engrossed in material energy that he cannot appreciate it all. So technically this means people who are averse to Krishna, averse to spiritual life completely. If we get materialists who are neutral, there is some possibility, obviously.
And if you have people with faith, of course, obviously, then they are qualified to hear nicely. But some people are in a lesser position and actually hostile to the idea of existence of God and hostile to the devotees. So these are the persons who are excluded. So who would not be attracted to hearing about the wonderful pastimes of Krishna? Not everyone, except Pashuna, the one who is so low that he is opposed to the Supreme Lord, the devotees, to all aspects of whatever the Lord says. So in other words, he is engrossed in sinful activity of some sort, or in aparad, etc. So such persons cannot appreciate that all the Lord, and if they hear it, they will become angry and oppose it. So literally, Pashugna means the killer of animals, which can mean butcher, of course, because it's sinful activity. Or by extension, Prabhupada says even the people who animal sacrifices, technically it's not butcher because it's recommended by Shastras, but because it's material and the results are material again, it is killing animals. So that's also useless. They're too interested in maintaining their material existence, so they will not hear about the Supreme Lord, even though they may be following karma and homicide, karma kanda aspect of the Vedas. Still is, they will not take interest. Animal killers, etc., people involved in breaking all the regulated principles, it's very difficult for them to appreciate the topics of the Supreme Lord. But of course, in general, we can say anyone, in the broad sense when we talk about Pashugna, one who is, Prabhupada translates, one who is killing his personal existence. We see in the Upanishads, like the Isa Upanishad, there is the killer of the self, Atma. Ha and Ga mean the same thing, killing. So killing the animal, killing the Atma. Of course, we cannot kill the Atma as such, because it's eternal. But we can definitely kill or impede the chances of understanding about Atma and understanding about the Supreme Lord, who is the Supreme Atma. And we can be completely hostile towards Supreme Lord or any spiritual consciousness. As we see the demons in Krishna's pastimes, like Shishupala, etc. They were enemies of the Lord, who is also the Supreme Atma. So they were completely opposed to anything spiritual. So in that sense, we have the killer of the soul, or the killer of the self, or whatever like that. The killer of the Supreme Lord. They want to kill at least. So all these people who oppose the Supreme Lord, these persons have no chance, ultimately. And that is reflected in their sinful activities of various sorts, such as killing animals, etc. So, therefore, the qualification is therefore hearing about the topics of Krishna. Fortunately, because Krishna is all attractive, there's a little bit of an exception. So we see that Shishupala was a demon, but because Krishna is all attractive and his name is all attractive, he became absorbed in thinking about Krishna and hatred and chanting his name in hatred. And through that, he got purified because of the repetition of the name. So even for Pashugna, or the one who is completely opposed to the Lord, if they hear about Krishna enough, then hopefully they would also get purified and then be able to get mercy and get faith and then develop and appreciate the Lord, as in the case of Shishupala. So anyway, that's the exceptional case of Krishna, that because of the attractive power of Krishna, even those who are the aparadis and demons, etc., there is chance that they also become purified through repeated hearing, chanting, etc. Anyway, this is a glorification by Parikshit of the topics of Krishna.
Everything in the creation has some purpose. So that's people who doesn't believe in God, God also has some purpose in God's creation.
Well, it's not that the purpose is creation of such persons. You can say that the existence of jivas has some purpose. And they're not created, of course, but why do they exist? So it is explained in the Brahma Sutras that jivas exist as an expression of the Ananda of the Lord. Because by existence of jivas, we establish rasa. But we say, well, yes, for the nitya-siddhas, sadhana-siddhas, the spiritual world, there's rasa. What about the people in the material world? So they also have a chance to get rasa, and therefore the Lord has spiritual processes, scriptures, avatars, devotees, etc. So that the people in the material world can also develop rasa. So again, that's an expression of the Lord's Ananda. So the only question is, why have any material people at all? Why not establish the cities? The answer to that is, it's the nature of jiva. By definition, the jiva is an independent, not completely independent, but he has his own sense of I, and the Lord gives him freedom to choose. And because of infinite jivas, some choose the Lord, some do not choose the Lord. That's all. So this is the basic nature of jivas, such that some are attracted to the Lord and some choose not to. But because the Lord, they're tatashta, those who are in the material realm can achieve the spiritual realm, right? And become siddha as well by the mercy of the Lord. For non-devotees, is it correct to chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra so they will be relieved from material problems? So if we do so, then this is called mixed bhakti. It is not anima. We can do that, but if we continue to do that a lot, then it changes our goal, and we do not get the prema that is indicated in nectar devotion. At best, we can get a kind of shantaras or salokya or sarupya.
Whereas sometimes devotees request to chant for the well-being of another devotee, say god brother or god sister. So is it considered as Anya Bilasha Tasuri?
Well, it's because of devotees, yeah. It's not material, in other words. It's for the progress of the devotee. In that sense, it's spiritual. It's for devotees.
And also here in the purport,
If we're chanting for somebody to become rich in the material world, then that would be material. If we're chanting they become better so they can practice bhakti, fine.
here in the purport quotes that right from Brahman and everybody is in cross with self-gratification. But also we hear that at the end of the Mahapralaya, by end of the Brahma's life, Brahma goes to Goloka. So if he is engrossed in self-gratification, how can he go?
Well, this is a relative term, of course. Brahmaloka and the inhabitants there have very, very, very little material desire. Obviously, there's something there, otherwise they wouldn't be in the material world anymore. So Brahma, of course, generally is very elevated, and it's his lasting material existence in the material body, and from there he goes on in general. But he still has some small touch of material desire, and those who are lower have more, of course. So, therefore, anyone in the material world, that indicates, the existence in the material world indicates they have some material desire, unless they have achieved prema, through sadhana, etc.
In the higher planetary system, maybe there are a lot of happiness. There are more possibilities to get happiness. So is it good to understand that it is impossible to do bhakti there, or it's difficult to do bhakti in the upper planetary systems?
No, it may be more difficult because suffering is also an impetus for bhakti, so that impetus is not there, or much less in the higher planetary systems. We can say that probably 80% of the people come to bhakti because they have some problem in the material world. So very few are coming because of jnana. They have knowledge of the Lord. And of course, some are coming because they want to escape from the suffering, whatever, like that. So, like that. that's there. So in the upper planetary system, there's less motivation in that sense. But still, they can practice bhakti. It's not a problem.
Take this Pushut mode. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a saying about this explanation of ahimsa. Prabhupada was again what is called ahimsa. In 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explained that what is called ahimsa, that those who have a knowledge or doesn't spread their knowledge, they also consider ahimsa. Ahimsa.
Non-violence.
Yeah, non-violence. So those who have a knowledge but doesn't spread it, so they are committing this violence.
In a higher sense, that they have knowledge but they don't give that knowledge to others. So therefore they allow the ignorance and consequently the violence of the material world to continue. So that's a little indirect, but in that sense, because they are not merciful to others, in that sense, we say it's violence.
Maharaj, in the Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna says Tattva Darshana. The jnana comes from Tattva Darshana. So what does that state of Tattva Darshana refer to? Does it refer to the level of bhava or prema? What does it really mean?
Well, of course, it can refer to various things. That verse actually comes in the Jnana Yoga chapter. So it could refer to the guru who is tattva, realizing tattva. That is, he realizes Brahman, or at least he knows about Brahman. So it's obvious that the tattva darshana can be on several levels. He can be a tattva darshi, and he literally is merged in Brahman. But if he were merged in Brahman, he wouldn't speak to anybody. So therefore, he would have to be a person in a lesser category, or who would speak about Brahman to others, or whatever. So we have the darshanas, the different various philosophies. So one who is an adherent of tattva, or jnana, or Vedanta Sutra, then that person who has knowledge of that, then he would be qualified to speak to others. That can be one meaning. If we take the meaning as bhakti, of course, then this advaya jnana is a tattva. So that tattva can refer to the complete existence of Brahman, Parma, and Bhagavan. So one who has knowledge of that, or has complete vision of that, is qualified to spread to others. So obviously the literal, you can say, seer of Bhagavan would be the Prem Bhakta or the Bhav Bhakta. But as I said, generally they're not the ones who do the preaching work, so therefore I refer to the Madhyama. So therefore the darshan in that sense cannot mean one who literally sees God, but he has knowledge of God through the scriptures and through the parampara, obviously.
So it's about darshana through the scriptures.
Yeah.
Here, tattva means that the truth, consider truths.
Yeah, tattva. So that tattva can refer to Supreme Lord and everything relating to Sambandha, Jnana, Vidya, Prayojana, all that is tattva in that sense.
Granthara